watching AnewZ today. I'm Leyla Masimova. The top stories this afternoon. North Korea fires several short-range ballistic missiles toward the southeast Korean peninsula. U.S. presidential candidates held their final rallies, whilst market reactions to their polls have been mixed. The world's first wooden satellite was successfully launched from Kennedy Space Center. North Korea launched at least 7 short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast, according to Japanese officials. In response, South Korea's military warns that North Korea's actions have raised tensions and it will be held accountable for its actions.
The missiles reached an altitude of 100 kilometers and flew a distance of 400 kilometers before falling into the ocean outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, condemned the first-ever joint US-South Korea military drills, describing them as provocative. Her remarks came just before North Korea launched its missiles, which were seen as a direct reaction to the drills. According to the South Korean Air Force, drills included the Global Hawk and Reaper drones, which dropped GPS-guided munitions in simulated strikes against enemy targets. The latest tests are part of North Korea's ongoing missile development program, despite increasing international calls for restraint. Japan strongly condemned the launches.
North Korean actions, including its repeated launches of ballistic missiles, are absolutely unacceptable and threaten the safety and security of our nation, the region, and the international community.
Just a week ago, North Korea launched its longest-range ballistic missile, known as Hwasong-19, which reportedly reached higher altitude than any previous North Korean missile.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has claimed that intelligence reports indicate 11,000 North Korean soldiers have been deployed in Russia's Kursk region.
Zelensky addressed the situation on the front lines in Donetsk and Kursk, stressing that Ukraine's defense forces must provide an adequate response to Russian actions in southern Ukraine. He also pointed out that despite the increasing presence of North Korean personnel, Ukraine's international partners have yet to escalate their response.
There was also a separate report today from the main intelligence directorate and foreign intelligence service regarding North Korean military personnel in Russia. There are already 11,000 in the Kursk region. We are seeing an increase in North Koreans, but unfortunately, we don't see an increased reaction from our partners.
The Pentagon also reported on Monday that the number of North Korean troops in Kursk had increased by around 2,000, but could not confirm if the troops were involved in combat.
We believe that there are now at least 10,000 DPRK forces in the Kursk Oblast, recognizing that as we continue to assess DPRK presence on the ground, those numbers could go up slightly in terms of the total number of DPRK troops in Russia. We've seen the press reports about alleged combat ops. We're looking into those, but at this point cannot corroborate those reports. But as you heard Secretary Austin say last week, should these troops engage in combat support operations against Ukraine, they would become legitimate military targets.
The Kremlin had initially dismissed reports about North Korean deployment as fake news. Later, Russian President Vladimir Putin neither confirmed nor denied the findings, but said that it was up to Moscow how to run its mutual defense clause with Pyongyang.
Regarding our relations with the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, as you know, our Strategic Partnership Treaty was ratified today. We never doubted that the leadership of North Korea treats our agreements seriously. But how we will use this treaty is up to us.
North Korea did not confirm reports of troop deployment to Russia, saying that, if true, it would align itself with international norms.
The candidates are undertaking their final push before the US elections. Market reactions have been mixed, with polls showing an incredibly tight race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
Harris wrapped up her presidential campaign with a rally in Philadelphia, following several other stops in Pennsylvania, a key battleground state. Trump also focused on Pennsylvania, making stops in various swing states, including North Carolina, before heading to Michigan. These were their final hours to deliver their closing messages before Election Day. Harris ended her night in Philadelphia on the Art Museum steps, made famous in the movie Rocky, where she said, "The momentum is on our side."
Our campaign has tapped into the ambitions, the aspirations, and the dreams of the American people. And we know it is time for a new generation of leadership in America.
Trump promised to revitalize the United States.
I will rescue the American dream. Together we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country, and we will launch the most extraordinary economic boom the world has ever seen, and we'll do it by...
Businesses in Washington, D.C. and major cities across the U.S. fenced up their windows in preparation for potential protests, riots and looting. About 77 million Americans have voted early. Current results shows that Harris is ahead in national presidential polls. U.S. stocks closed slightly lower after a choppy session as investors prepared for a crucial week in which Americans will elect a new president and the Federal Reserve will announce its policy statement. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris both scrambled for an edge in the last full day of a race that all polls show as extremely close. It could take days to determine the victor.
God bless you and God bless the United States.
Heavy rains are continuing to batter Barcelona as Spain suffers with a massive flooding that has claimed at least 217 lives in the Valencia region. The country has been left to deal with the widespread devastation as public anger escalates.
The international El Prat airport, the second busiest in Spain, was partially flooded, leading to the cancellation of over 80 flights. Railway services were also suspended in the affected areas. The airport urged travelers to check all transportation methods together with flight statuses. Local services and schools were cancelled in Tarragona, a city in southern Catalonia about halfway between Barcelona and Valencia, after a red alert for rains was issued. Public outrage is growing over the authorities' failure to manage the crisis and restore control. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez admitted that the state must do better. According to the defense minister, 7,500 military personnel are now working in the affected areas. Rescue teams are focusing their efforts on underground car parks and tunnels in the Valencia region, where drivers may have been trapped by the floods. The towns remain covered in mud, with cars still piled up, and some areas lacking access to drinking water or food. As the days go by, the risks of infection and other health issues continue to increase.
Air pollution in Lahore, the second biggest city in Pakistan, has hit record levels, pushing residents to urge the authorities for action.
According to recent data released by IQ Air, Lahore now ranks as the world's most polluted city. It is surrounded by toxic smoke that has sickened thousands of people. The elderly and children are amongst the most affected.
Currently, our region is experiencing severe smog with alarming levels of air pollution. This toxic environment leads to coughs, colds, and respiratory issues, posing significant risks to human health. We urge the authorities to take measures to protect the citizens from these seasonal health hazards.
In order to prevent further damage, the authorities have undertaken multiple emergency measures. Primary schools have been shut for a week, and people have been advised to stay indoors, with employees urged to work from home as part of a green lockdown. However, residents find the measures ineffective.
Smog has brought diseases and distress to every household, including mine, where children are struggling with coughs and sore throats, a situation common in our neighbourhood. Shifting the school hours was meant to help, but unfortunately, it hasn't made a noticeable difference.
The situation was exacerbated last month, and with colder weather forecast, it might even get worse.
The Global Summit of Religious Leaders, entitled World Religions for a Green Planet, has kicked off in Baku 1 week in advance of COP29. This two-day event brings together nearly 30 international religious leaders, including representatives from the Vatican and Al-Azhar, together with figures from 55 countries and 30 international organizations. Their shared mission is to unite in pursuit of stewardship for a greener planet, reflecting the respect for the earth and humanity that is shared by all religions. The summit is co-organized by Azerbaijan's Ministry of Ecology and Natural Resources, the State Committee on Work with Religious Institutions, the Muslim Council of Elders, the Caucasus Muslims Office, and the United Nations Environment Programme. Heads of state from the Organization of Turkic States will gather in Bishkek, capital of Kyrgyz Republic, seeking to chart a collective course for climate resilience, digital integration and economic stability.
Zirvemiz Türk Devletler Teşkilatı'nın Türk dünyası
Organization of Turkic States Secretary General Kubanishbek Ömeraliyev outlined the priorities of the 11th summit, underscoring a unique environmentally focused agenda that he described as a forward-looking framework for a sustainable and connected Turkic world. He emphasized that the summit's agenda has been constructed around tackling some of the most pressing global issues, with sustainability, technological advancement, and cross-border economic alignment at the forefront. A centerpiece of the summit will be the Turkic Green Vision, an initiative aimed at fostering green finance and sustainable development across member states.
Sürdürülebilir kalkınma gündemindeki de aynı derecede ideal.
Our Green Vision is designed to drive investment in environmentally conscious projects. The focus on green finance marks a pivotal shift for the Organization for Turkic States, signaling a new era of climate-focused economic planning. The summit is also set to address digital connectivity across the Turkic region through the introduction of advanced technological projects. Key amongst these is a Turkic large language model, a tool aimed at boosting digital literacy and linguistic integration, and the Earth Observation Technology satellite, which will enhance environmental monitoring capabilities and aid tracking of climate impacts across member states.
Teknolojik uydusu gibi projelerimiz.
A digital economy partnership agreement is expected to be signed, which would streamline digital trade across borders and build a common framework to facilitate smoother region-wide business operations. The Organization for Turkic States Secretary General underscored the need for coordinated responses to natural disasters and emergencies, revealing that the Civil Protection Mechanism Agreement would be introduced to align disaster preparedness strategies across member states.
Turkey has announced that it's expanding its existing tariffs on important passenger cars to include those from Vietnam, Japan and Canada.
This decision aims to address tariff disparities affecting Turkey. Previously, Turkey applied an additional 10% tax on passenger cars imported via the European Union from countries such as Mexico and South Africa. This was imposed to correct an uneven tariff landscape that emerged due to preferential trade agreements between the EU and third countries. The revised regulation now extends the 10% additional tariff to passenger cars, conventional, hybrid and electric models, imported from Vietnam, Japan, and Canada. Turkey seeks to level the playing field by ensuring that countries without preferential trade agreements do not benefit from lower tariffs under the EU Customs Union framework. This step is part of ongoing efforts to protect the domestic automotive market and ensure equitable trade practices.
The world's first wooden satellite, AnewZ, was successfully launched into the space from NASA's Kennedy Space Center.
Developed by Kyoto University in collaboration with a Japanese home builder, AnewZ is part of an experimental mission to test the potential of timber for future Moon and Mars explorations.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engine full power. And liftoff.
AnewZ was carried to the International Space Station aboard a SpaceX mission, where it will eventually be released into orbit about 400 kilometers above Earth. The satellite, roughly the size of a palm, is designed to explore how wood, a renewable, environmentally friendly material, performs in space.
Engine cutoff for the 9 Merlin 1B engines on the first stage will shut down.
Named after the Latin word for wood, AnewZ will remain in orbit for 6 months, during which its wooden structure will be monitored. The satellite's onboard electronics will measure how wood withstands extreme temperatures, which fluctuate dramatically from minus 100 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius every 45 minutes as the satellite orbits. The results of the mission could pave the way for the use of sustainable materials in future space explorations.
An Egyptian optical designer is making waves in the field of astronomy. He leads the first factory in Egypt and in the Middle East to specialize in telescopes.
Surrounded by astronomers, Egyptian optical designer Abd El-Fattah spends his days amongst telescopes and lenses. In his factory in the Nile Delta city of Tanta, he produces astronomical telescopes proudly labelled as Made in Egypt. This is the only factory in Egypt and the Middle East specialising in astronomical telescopes. Founded in 1995 after his training in Germany, Italy and Sweden, Abd El-Fattah explained that he discovered that this industry didn't exist in Egypt, and that led him to start a factory for telescope bodies.
We began to significantly develop the existing lens production factory, specializing in the production of telescope lenses. Instead of importing lenses at a cost of nearly $100 to $200, we began producing them locally. Additionally, we specialize in manufacturing ocular lenses for optical devices, such as medical microscopes, telescopes, and eye fundus examination equipment.
In addition to manufacturing, Abd El-Fattah operates an educational centre where enthusiasts learn to craft high-quality optical components.
I studied at the Voyager factory and received training in manufacturing ocular and objective lenses designed for astronomical telescopes. Thanks God, I have been very well educated and trained, and now I'm capable of producing the product, the complete lens. I also train students on how to manufacture lenses to a very high quality of accuracy.
Abd El-Fattah's passion for lenses extends beyond telescopes. He also showcases his extensive collection of vintage cameras, microscopes and telescopes in a nearby museum, emphasizing the importance of understanding the evolution of optical technology.
Michael Jordan's game-worn red jersey from the 1996-97 championship season with the Chicago Bulls fetched nearly $5 million at the Sotheby's auction in New York.
Brandon Hawks, a sports specialist at Sotheby's, had anticipated that this unique item described as a unicorn would sell for between $4 and $6 million before being listed for auction in October.
I'm standing in front of Colossal, which is a Michael Jordan jersey from the 96-97 NBA season. It's one of the most extensively worn Michael Jordan jerseys ever to come to market. It was worn sort of during the peak of Michael Jordan's powers. So worn right after the movie Space Jam came out, so he was at the peak of his fame. And it was worn for 5 months.
Jordan wore the jersey in at least 17 games, including a notable match on March 12, 1997, when rookie Allen Iverson famously crossed over Jordan, creating a legendary moment in basketball history, as noted by Hawks. This jersey was particularly special because Jordan typically wore a fresh strip for each game.
No red jersey from the first 5 championship seasons of Michael Jordan has ever come to market. So it's an incredibly rare piece, and it's also been extensively used, which collectors love, right? So it was used for 17 games.
Alongside the red jersey, Sotheby's auctioned 5 other Michael Jordan memorabilia pieces, including 2 white Chicago Bulls jerseys, a flag worn during his gold medal ceremony at the 1992 Olympics, and a warm-up jacket and training shoes from his time at the University of North Carolina.
Well, that's all we have for this hour. Please do stay with us for the latest global and regional stories. And from always here in Baku, a very good afternoon.